Cody Brown just got destroyed by his own brother on national television, and honestly, it was a long time coming. Michael Brown, Cody's younger brother by quite a few years, showed up to help with the move to the new McMansion and ended up delivering the most brutal reality check of the entire season. And it all started with two simple words: your kids. That's it. That's all it took to expose the rot at the center of Cody's entire parenting philosophy. Michael heard Cody refer to Christine's children as her kids, and he wasn't having it. He looked directly at his brother and said, "Your kids, Cody, your kids." The silence that followed was deafening, because in that moment, everyone watching realized what Cody's own children have known for years. This man doesn't see himself as father to anyone who doesn't live under Robin's roof. He's mentally divorced himself from the kids he raised with Christine, Janelle, and Mary. He's drawn a line in the sand, and only Robin's children get to exist on his side of it. The rest of them are her kids now, Christine's responsibility, Janelle's problem, Mary's burden, but never ever his. Michael didn't back down either. He kept pushing, kept questioning, kept poking holes in every excuse Cody tried to float. Why are you moving into such a massive house when 3/4 of your family just left? Why do you keep talking about Christine's kids like they're strangers? Why does everything out of your mouth sound like a victim complex wrapped in self-righteousness? And Cody predictably had no good answers. Just deflection, just excuses, just more proof that he's completely lost the plot. But the "your kids" moment was only the beginning. Michael dropped revelation after revelation during that conversation, from his own rejection of plural marriage to pointed observations about their father's actual charisma versus Cody's bitterness and rage. He watched Cody perform for the cameras, sweating dramatically and begging Robin for attention like a desperate puppy, and you could see the judgment written all over Michael's face. This is what the great patriarch has become: a man who can't claim his own children, a husband whose wife won't touch him in public, a father who's burned every bridge and somehow still believes he's the hero of this story. And the absolute kicker, Cody had no idea how bad he looked. He thought this was just another moving day, another chance to play the martyr, another opportunity to talk about how hard his life is now that his wives refuse to worship him. Instead, he got confronted with truths he's been running from for years, and it all happened because his brother had the guts to say what everyone else was thinking. Your kids, Cody. They're your kids too. Let's set the scene, because the context here matters. Cody and Robin are moving out of their first Flagstaff McMansion and into an even bigger, even more expensive house across town. And who shows up to help with the heavy lifting? Michael Brown, Cody's significantly younger brother, and apparently the only person in this family willing to ask uncomfortable questions on camera. But before we get to the confrontation that changes everything, we have to talk about Cody's absolutely ridiculous performance during this move. This man is out here acting like he's doing the most physically demanding labor known to mankind. He's drenched in sweat, he's complaining about how stinky he is, he's practically begging Robin to acknowledge his manliness and his hard work and his sweaty, stinky body. It's embarrassing to watch. Truly embarrassing. Robin, for her part, looks like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. She's not impressed by the sweat, she's not charmed by the performance, she's just standing there looking uncomfortable while her husband desperately tries to get some kind of reaction out of her. And this becomes important later because Cody and Robin spend half this episode trying to convince everyone that Robin's just naturally not affectionate in public, that she's shy, that she's always been this way. But anyone who watched the earlier seasons knows that's complete garbage. Robin had no problem being affectionate with Cody when she could rub it in her sister wives' faces. She had no problem smirking at Christine during that boat building challenge when Cody made a 69 joke. She had no problem making sure everyone knew Cody wanted her the most. But now that there's no one left to compete with, now that she's won and claimed all of Cody's time and attention and the family money, suddenly she's too shy for public affection. Suddenly they're battle buddies instead of lovers. Suddenly Cody's out here complaining that his monogamous relationship isn't giving him enough physical attention, and Robin's acting like she's never been the kind of wife who wanted to be touched. The whole thing reeks of dysfunction. These two people orchestrated the destruction of an entire family so they could be alone together, and now that they've got what they wanted, neither of them seems particularly happy about it. Cody's performing masculinity for a wife who won't even look at him. Robin's pretending she's always been modest and reserved when the footage says otherwise, and Michael's watching all of this unfold while helping them move into a house that's supposedly necessary because they need to escape the memories of their broken family. Except here's the thing. The family wasn't broken in that house. The family was already shattered long before they decided to move. Christine left years ago. Janelle's been emotionally checked out since Coyote Pass became Kody's obsession. Mary's been a ghost in this marriage for over a decade. Moving to a new house doesn't erase that history. It just gives Kody and Robin a fresh space to continue their sad, dysfunctional performance. So Michael's helping with the move, watching this bizarre performance art unfold, and he finally asks the question that literally everyone watching at home has been screaming at their televisions for weeks. Why are you moving? But more specifically, why are you moving into such a significantly bigger and more expensive house when your family just imploded? This is the question that matters. This is the question that cuts through all of Kody's carefully rehearsed talking points about needing to escape the memories and start fresh. Because sure, fine, maybe you don't want to drive past Christine's old house every day. Maybe seeing Janelle's rental reminds you of your failures. Maybe the whole neighborhood feels tainted by the wreckage of your broken promises. That's understandable, even if it's entirely your own fault. But that doesn't explain why the solution involves upgrading to a massive property with a mortgage that Janelle herself said on social media made her do a double take. That doesn't explain why you're rolling the family asset, the house that Mary and Janelle helped pay for, into a bigger investment that only has Kody and Robin's names on it. That doesn't explain why you're expanding your square footage when you just lost 3/4 of the people who were supposed to fill those rooms. Kody's answer? The same recycled nonsense he's been spewing all season. It's too hard to live here. The memories are too painful. We need a fresh start. Robin had an epiphany about Coyote Pass. We're done with that chapter. Except none of that explains the upgrade. None of that justifies the financial decisions. None of that addresses the elephant in the room, which is that this move looks an awful lot like Kody and Robin cashing out the family investment and keeping all the profits for themselves. And Michael's not buying it. You can see it on his face. He's heard the official story, the sanitized version they're feeding the cameras. But he's not stupid. He knows his brother. He knows how Kody operates. He knows that every 5 years, like clockwork, Kody gets restless and decides the family needs to uproot and start over somewhere new. This isn't about escaping memories. This is about Kody's pattern of running from accountability and dragging everyone along for the ride. Except this time, there's no one left to drag. Christine's in Utah living her best life with David. Janelle's planning her farm and spending time with her kids in North Carolina. Mary's cautiously exploring the dating world and realizing she doesn't have to put up with being called someone's friend instead of their wife. The only person left in Kody's orbit is Robin, and based on the battle buddies comment and the lack of physical affection, even she seems like she's having second thoughts about this arrangement. So Michael asks why they're moving, and what he's really asking is why are you pretending this is about healing when it looks an awful lot like you're just setting up your next act? Why are you playing the victim when you're the one who destroyed everything? Why should anyone believe you're starting fresh when you haven't taken accountability for anything? And then it happens. The moment that exposes everything. The moment that Michael Brown becomes the most valuable person in this entire documentary series. Kody's rambling on about the move, about Christine, about how hard everything has been for him, and he refers to Christine's children, her kids, like they're products she ordered online and he had nothing to do with creating them. Michael doesn't hesitate. He looks directly at his brother and says, "Your kids. Your kids too, Kody." The correction hangs in the air like a grenade that just got tossed into the middle of the conversation. Because Michael just called out the single most damaging pattern in Kody's entire approach to fatherhood. This man genuinely believes that his children belong to their mothers. That fatherhood is something you can opt out of when the marriage ends. That kids are extensions of their mom's choices. And if mom chooses to leave, well then those kids aren't really his problem anymore. Kody tries to brush past it. He does this little verbal stumble where he's like, "Oh yeah, my kids." And then he keeps talking like Michael didn't just expose his entire worldview in 2 words. But it's too late, the damage is done. Everyone watching just saw a father get corrected by his own brother for failing to claim his children. Everyone watching just realized that this isn't a slip of the tongue or poor phrasing. This is how Kody actually thinks. And the most infuriating part? This isn't new information. Kody's been doing this for years. He talks about Robin's kids as my kids constantly. My kids need this. My kids deserve that. My kids are struggling because their siblings abandoned them. But when it comes to Christine's 6 children, the ones he raised from birth, the ones who called him dad for decades, suddenly the language shifts. Suddenly it's her kids, Christine's kids, the kids Christine took when she left. It's dehumanizing. It's cruel. It's exactly the kind of conditional love that destroys children's sense of security and worth. Because what Kody's really saying with that language is that his love and his claim to fatherhood depend entirely on whether the mother stays in line. If you're a good wife who obeys and worships and never questions, then your children get to be his children too. But if you're a wife who demands respect or sets boundaries or, God forbid, actually leaves, then those kids become your problem and your responsibility. Michael caught it, Michael called it out, and Kody's response was to essentially ignore it and keep talking, because acknowledging what he just revealed would require a level of self-awareness and accountability that Cody Brown absolutely does not possess. He'd have to admit that he's a terrible father to most of his children. He'd have to admit that his priorities are completely backwards. He'd have to admit that Robin's kids get preferential treatment not because they're younger or needier, but because they're Robin's. And Cody will never ever admit that truth. Let's talk about the pattern, because once Michael pointed it out, you can't unsee it. Cody has spent years creating a linguistic hierarchy in his family, and the language he uses reveals exactly where his loyalties lie. When he talks about Robin's children, it's always my kids. When he talks about the children he had with Christine, Janelle, or Mary, it's their kids. Her kids. Christine's kids. And this isn't accidental. This is a man telling on himself every single time he opens his mouth. Go back and watch any episode from the past few seasons. Listen to how Cody talks about family gatherings. I want my kids to come back to the house with their grandkids. My kids are hurting because their siblings won't visit. My kids deserve better than this. And every single time he's talking about Robin's 5 children. Every single time he's centering their pain and their needs and their experience of this family breakdown. Meanwhile, Christine's kids, Janelle's kids, Mary's son, they all get lumped into this separate category of people who wronged him by choosing their mothers over his demands. The double standard is staggering. Truly staggering. Because Cody will sit there with a straight face and talk about how sad Robin's kids are that the family fell apart, but he won't take any responsibility for why those relationships fractured in the first place. He won't acknowledge that his older children watched him pour all his time and energy and resources into Robin's household while their mothers struggled. He won't admit that his favoritism was so blatant and so cruel that it destroyed any chance of sibling unity. And here's the thing that makes it even worse. Robin's kids aren't blameless in this dynamic either. They've benefited enormously from Cody's preferential treatment. They got the nice house, they got dad's constant presence, they got family money funneled into their lifestyle while Janelle lived in a rental and Christine scraped by in a duplex. But instead of acknowledging that privilege, instead of recognizing how good they had it compared to their half-siblings, they play the victim card right alongside their parents. Cody enables this completely. He frames Robin's children as the injured parties in this family collapse, as if they're the ones who suffered the most, as if they're the ones who got abandoned. But the reality is the exact opposite. Robin's kids got everything. They got the dad who showed up. They got the resources, they got the attention and the validation and the constant reassurance that they matter most. What they didn't get was accountability for how that favoritism impacted everyone else. So when Michael calls out Cody for saying her kids instead of your kids, what he's really doing is shining a light on years of this linguistic othering. He's pointing out that Cody has mentally divided his children into 2 categories, the ones who belong to him and the ones who belong to their mothers. And that division, that fundamental rejection of shared parenthood, is one of the biggest reasons why Cody Brown is currently estranged from the vast majority of his adult children. But Michael wasn't done dropping truth bombs on this moving day from hell. After calling out Cody's parenting language, the conversation shifts to plural marriage itself, and Michael makes his position crystal clear. He's not interested. He's not doing it. He watched enough polygamous marriages implode without needing to blame it all on Cody specifically. Translation? Polygamy is a broken system, and even growing up immersed in it couldn't convince Michael it was worth pursuing. This is huge. This is a direct contradiction to everything Cody's been selling for 20 seasons. Cody's entire narrative has always been that plural marriage is natural, that it's godly, that it's the superior family structure if only people would stop being selfish and jealous. He's blamed every single failure in his marriages on individual people not being good enough at polygamy. Christine wasn't humble enough, Janelle wasn't submissive enough, Mary wasn't present enough. Robin's the only one who really understood the lifestyle and embraced it properly. Except here's Michael, raised in the same family, exposed to the same beliefs, watching the same model of plural marriage through their father, and his conclusion is a hard pass. No thanks. not interested. Saw too many train wrecks, and he makes a point of saying he doesn't need to blame Kody for that perspective, which is actually kind of generous because Kody's disaster of a family would be enough to turn anyone away from polygamy forever. Then Michael drops an even more interesting observation. He talks about their father, about how women were attracted to him because he was so manly. He was out there wrangling cattle, being tough and capable and charismatic, and the subtext is deafening. Their father had something Kody doesn't. Their father had actual charisma and presence and strength that made women want to be part of his family. Kody has none of that. Kody has neediness and desperation and a victim complex the size of Arizona. Even Mary said it earlier in the season. She hasn't seen the charismatic, fun version of Kody in years. The man who used to laugh and joke and make people feel included has been replaced by this angry, bitter shell who sees betrayal everywhere and takes responsibility for nothing. And if Mary, who spent a decade trying to win back Kody's affection, can admit that transformation happened, then it's not up for debate. Kody changed. Kody became someone fundamentally different from the man who started this family. Michael's comparison to their father is brutal because it highlights everything Kody lacks. Their dad apparently had genuine qualities that attracted multiple women. Kody has manipulation and control, and the ability to love bomb someone until they're trapped. Their dad built something that, for better or worse, functioned for decades. Kody built a hierarchy disguised as a family and then acted shocked when the women at the bottom of that hierarchy eventually walked away. And the fact that Michael can see this, can articulate this, while Kody remains completely oblivious, tells you everything you need to know about why this family fell apart. Kody lost the plot years ago. He just hasn't figured it out yet. But then Kody takes the conversation to an even weirder, more disturbing place. He starts talking about what made their father attractive to multiple women, and somehow, some way, he turns it into a bizarre commentary about Janelle's mother that absolutely nobody asked for. Kody starts going on about how women were attracted to their dad because of raw animalistic attraction. He specifically brings up Cheryl, Janelle's mom, and suggests that her relationship with their father wasn't about love, it was just physical. Let that sink in for a second. Kody just implied on national television that his ex-mother-in-law didn't actually love his father, that Cheryl was just physically attracted to Win Brown, and that's why she entered into a plural marriage with him. Not because of spiritual connection or shared values or genuine affection, but because she couldn't resist his manly cattle-wrangling pheromones or whatever nonsense Kody's trying to sell. This is so wildly inappropriate on so many levels. First of all, Cheryl is Janelle's mother. Janelle, the woman Kody was married to for 3 decades. The woman who gave him 6 children. The woman who stuck by him through bankruptcy and constant moves and watching him fall head over heels for Robin while she got pushed further and further to the margins. And now Kody's out here disrespecting Janelle's mom by reducing her marriage to pure physical attraction, by suggesting she didn't actually love Win Brown, just wanted to sleep with him. The disrespect is breathtaking. And it says so much about how Kody views women in general. He genuinely believes that women are driven primarily by physical attraction and that love is almost secondary. He's projecting his own shallow understanding of relationships onto everyone else, because we all know what Kody valued most in his relationship with Robin. It wasn't her brilliant mind or her deep spirituality. It was the physical attention, the validation, the way she made him feel like a virile, desirable man when his other wives had stopped playing that game. Kody literally said in an earlier season that after getting a massage from Robin, he realized his love language was physical touch, a massage from Robin. That's when the great revelation occurred. So of course Kody thinks Cheryl only wanted Win for his body. Of course he reduces complex relationships to animal attraction. That's genuinely how his brain works. He cannot fathom that women might want emotional connection, intellectual compatibility, mutual respect, or genuine partnership. To Kody, it all comes down to physical desire and whether a woman is willing to stroke his ego. And the slam on Janelle is implicit but obvious. He's basically saying Janelle comes from a line of women who use men for physical gratification without real love. He's trying to explain away why Janelle never worshipped him the way Robin does, why Janelle always kept part of herself separate, why Janelle could walk away without falling apart. In Kody's twisted logic, Janelle's just like her mom, attracted to the idea of a man but not actually capable of deep love. It's gross, it's offensive, and it reveals exactly how little respect Kody has for the women he married. And just when you think Kody can't possibly reveal anything more damaging about himself, he drops this absolute gem of hypocrisy. He starts talking about Christine and David's relationship, and he has the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to say that if Christine is really in love with David, she needs to get over the past. She needs to stop being angry angry. She needs to move on from whatever grievances she's holding on to. Because apparently in Kody's mind, you can't be genuinely happy in a new relationship unless you've completely erased all memory of being mistreated in your previous one. Let's break down how absolutely ridiculous this statement is coming from Cody Brown. This is a man who brings up Christine's comment about hating polygamy from 15 years ago in literally every conversation about their failed marriage. 15 years. Christine made one comment over a decade ago about struggling with plural marriage, and Cody acts like she committed an unforgivable sin that he's entitled to hold over her head forever. This is a man who still rages about Mary's catfishing situation from almost 10 years ago. He still uses that as justification for why he couldn't love her, why he couldn't prioritize her, why their marriage was essentially over before the legal divorce to marry Robin even happened. He's never gotten over it. He's never moved past it. He's never shown Mary an ounce of grace or understanding about what she was going through when she fell for that scam. This is a man who cannot have a single conversation about Janelle without bringing up every perceived slight from their entire marriage. She didn't stand up for him enough. She didn't defend Robin enough. She took Christine's side. She wouldn't parent her kids the way he demanded. Cody keeps a mental ledger of every single thing any of his wives or children have ever done that he considers a betrayal, and he will weaponize those grievances until his dying breath. But Christine needs to get over it. Christine needs to let go of the years of being told she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't thin enough, that she wasn't spiritual enough, that she was too needy and too demanding and too difficult. She needs to forget about being called a basement wife. She needs to move past watching Cody fall in love with Robin right in front of her face while she was giving birth to his child. She needs to release any lingering hurt about being gaslit and manipulated and emotionally abandoned for over a decade. According to Cody, if Christine's really happy with David, none of that old stuff should matter anymore. She should just be over it. And the irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Because the only person in this entire family who hasn't moved on from anything is Cody himself. He's trapped in a prison of his own resentment and bitterness, replaying every moment he felt wronged, every time someone didn't give him the worship he thinks he deserves. But somehow everyone else is supposed to have perfect emotional clarity and zero baggage. Now let's circle back to what's happening with Cody and Robin during this move, because their dysfunction is on full display and it's honestly painful to watch. Cody keeps talking about how he and Robin have become battle buddies instead of lovers. Battle buddies like they're soldiers in a trench together, fighting off the enemy forces of accountability and consequences. And the enemy they're battling, apparently it's the fallout from their own choices, but they'd never frame it that way. Cody's complaining that Robin isn't affectionate with him anymore. He's begging for physical touch. He's performing this whole sweaty, stinky routine during the move, practically throwing himself at Robin, hoping she'll acknowledge his masculinity and his hard work. And Robin's response? Nothing. She's standing there looking uncomfortable, clearly not interested in playing along with whatever desperate game Cody's trying to run. Then they try to rewrite history right in front of our eyes. Robin suddenly claims she's never been into public affection. She's just naturally shy and reserved. She's always been this way, and anyone who remembers differently is mistaken. Except we all watched earlier seasons. We all saw Robin shooting Christine knowing looks when Cody made inappropriate jokes. We all saw her making sure the other wives knew Cody wanted her the most. We all watched her rub her relationship with Cody in everyone's faces every chance she got. But now that there's no one left to compete with, now that Robin's won and claimed all of Cody's time and attention and resources, suddenly she doesn't want to be touched. Suddenly she's too modest for public displays of affection. Suddenly they're roommates who happen to pray together, not lovers who orchestrated the destruction of an entire family so they could finally be alone. And Cody's out here complaining like he's the victim in this scenario. He's talking about how hard it is to be a monogamous man who isn't getting enough attention from his wife. He's trying to lure her, trying to seduce her, and she's just not interested. The man literally said he can't wait until they're at a mall, and Robin just slaps his backside. That's his fantasy now. Public acknowledgement that his wife finds him attractive, that's how desperate things have gotten. The whole thing screams of buyer's remorse on both sides. Robin wanted to be the top wife, not the only wife. She wanted Cody when she could steal him away from other women and feel superior about it. She wanted the validation of being chosen over Christine and Janelle and Mary. But now that she's got Cody all to herself, now that there's no competition and no audience for her victory, she seems profoundly uninterested in actually being his wife. And And Cody wanted the ego boost of multiple women fighting for his attention. He wanted to feel desired and important and powerful. But monogamy with a woman who won't touch him and treats him like a business partner isn't giving him what he needs. So they're both stuck in this performative marriage, pretending everything's fine while the cameras capture their obvious misery. Meanwhile, let's talk about the stark contrast between what's happening in Cody and Robin's world versus what's happening with the rest of the family. Because while Cody and Robin are moving into their empty McMansion and staging performative prayers for the cameras, Christine is thriving in North Carolina. Actually thriving. Not pretending. Not performing. Genuinely building a life that her kids want to be part of. Paydon just got out of the military and he's moving to North Carolina. Not because Christine begged him to, not because she guilt-tripped him or manipulated him or threatened to cut him off. He's moving there because that's where his siblings are. That's where his nieces and nephews are. That's where Janelle's planning her farm. That's where the actual Brown family is rebuilding without Cody's toxicity poisoning everything. They're cutting down Christmas trees together. They're having real conversations about grief and loss and moving forward after Garrison's death. They're supporting each other through major life transitions, and yes, Christine gets emotional about her kids spreading out and starting their own lives, but that's normal parenting. That's what it looks like when you actually love your children and want them to be happy, even when their happiness means they're not living in your pocket. Compare that to Cody standing in his new house with Robin and their kids, holding hands in a prayer circle for the cameras, talking about how God is blessing them in this new space. The performance is so transparent, it's almost insulting. They're trying so hard to project this image of a happy, faithful family starting fresh, but it's hollow. There's no joy there, there's no genuine connection. It's just Cody and Robin and their kids pretending that stealing the family money and isolating themselves in a bigger house is somehow a spiritual victory. Robin even cries about how they were a family in the old house. And it's like, no, you weren't. By the time that house was finished, the family was already fractured beyond repair. Janelle was living in a rental, Christine had left entirely, Mary was checked out emotionally and just going through the motions. The only people who considered that house a family home were Cody and Robin and their 5 kids. Everyone else was already gone or actively planning their exit. But they need to maintain this narrative that they're the victims, that the family abandoned them, that they're the faithful ones who stuck it out while everyone else gave up. So they staged this emotional goodbye to a house where they absolutely did not function as a plural family. And they move into a bigger house that they absolutely cannot afford without the money from the asset that Janelle and Mary helped build. And they expect everyone to buy the story that this is about healing and moving forward. The difference between the two situations couldn't be clearer. Christine's kids genuinely want to be near their family. Robin's kids have no choice but to stay near their parents. Christine's building community through authentic relationships. Cody and Robin are building walls around their isolation and calling it righteousness. Here's what really matters about this entire episode, and what Michael's questions should have pushed harder on. Because yes, calling out Cody for saying her kids instead of your kids was important. Yes, highlighting the difference between their father's charisma and Cody's bitterness mattered. But there are bigger questions that nobody's asking, and those questions get to the heart of why this family actually fell apart. Where's the money? Specifically, where's the money that Janelle and Mary put into Robin's first house? That property was supposed to be a family asset. All the wives contributed financially or were supposed to benefit from the investment. But when Cody and Robin sold it and moved into an even bigger, even more expensive house, did they pay Janelle and Mary back? Did they settle up the family accounts, or did they just roll that equity into their new place and call it a blessing from God? Because that's theft. That's not a complicated theological debate about the nature of plural marriage. That's taking money that belonged to other people and using it for your own benefit without their consent. And the fact that nobody's pressing Cody on this, that the producers aren't making him answer for the financial exploitation, is infuriating. Janelle said on social media that she saw the new house and the mortgage and it made her pause. Translation? She knows exactly what happened and she's watching them live large on money that was supposed to be hers too. Then there's Coyote Pass. They've been dragging their feet on selling that property for years now. Years. They keep coming up with excuses about why the timing isn't right, why they need to wait for the market, why it's complicated, but the real reason is obvious. As long as Coyote Pass stays in limbo, Cody doesn't have to divide up the proceeds, he doesn't have to write checks to Janelle and Mary for their share, he doesn't have to face the financial reckoning that comes with admitting this family is over. And finally, the biggest question that Michael or anyone else should be hammering Cody with is this: why don't you have relationships relationships with any of your adult children anymore. Not just Christine's kids, not just Janelle's kids, virtually all of them. What happened? What choices did you make that resulted in this level of estrangement from people you raised from birth? Because Kody keeps deflecting. He keeps blaming the kids for choosing their mothers. He keeps claiming they're brainwashed or disloyal or too influenced by Christine's bitterness. But at some point, when every single relationship is broken, you have to look at the common denominator. And the common denominator is Kody. His conditional love, his favoritism, his inability to see anyone's perspective but his own, his weaponizing of affection and approval to control people. Michael scratched the surface with his "your kids" comment. He started the conversation that needs to happen, but someone needs to finish it. Someone needs to sit Kody down without the escape routes and the deflections and force him to answer for the wreckage he's created. Not the wreckage that happened to him, the wreckage he caused, the relationships he destroyed, the trust he shattered, the family he sacrificed on the altar of his own ego and Robin's insecurity. Michael Brown walked into a moving day and accidentally became the most honest person in the entire Sister Wives franchise. With two simple words, "your kids," he exposed the fundamental problem with Kody's approach to fatherhood and family. He called out the conditional love, the linguistic othering, the way Kody has divided his children into categories based on whether their mothers still worship him. And the truth is, this conversation was long overdue. Someone needed to look Kody in the eye and tell him that his children aren't Christine's kids or Janelle's kids or Mary's kid. They're his. They were always his. And the fact that he's mentally divorced himself from most of them says everything about his character and nothing about theirs. So what do you think? Was Michael too soft on Kody, or did he say exactly what needed to be said? Do you believe Robin's sudden claims that she's never been affectionate, or is this just another rewrite of history? And most importantly, will Kody ever take accountability for the destruction he's caused, or will he keep playing the victim until everyone finally stops watching? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video is waiting and you will not believe what is coming next.